Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Anil Kumar from the Department of Mathematics, Sir Choturam, Government College for Women, Sapur. Today, in the present lecture, we will study a special kind of transformation. But before announcing the name of this transformation, we should know what actually the transformation means. In mathematical sense, a transformation is a device which convert one function into another function, or you can say which changes one variable into another variable. If we consider a linear equation y equal to 2x, here the variable x changes into the variable y when we multiply it with the real constant 2. Therefore, we can call this expression as transformation because the variable x is here changes to variable y. Also, the operation of differentiation as well as the operation of integration are transformation because they transform one function into another function. Now, the transformation which we are going to discuss here is special in the sense that it plays an enormous role in solving integral equation as well as initial value problems. It reduces the initial value problem into simple algebraic equation, and the solution of that initial value problem can be directly find out without finding the general solution. Therefore, due to its importance and usefulness, we will study this transformation, and this transformation is known as Laplace transformation. Now we start with the definition of Laplace transformation. Suppose f be a function which is taking the value ft for all t greater than equal to 0. Then the Laplace transformation of the function f, which is denoted by L of ft, and it is defined as integration between 0 to infinity f of t into e raised to power minus st dt. One thing is to be noted here, if we integrate this integrand, it will be some function of s and t, but instead of t, when we put the limit 0 and infinity, it will be the function which is depending upon the variable s. Here s is known as parameter. Now, using this definition, we will find the Laplace transform of some elementary function. First of all, we consider a function f which is taking the value 1 for all t greater than equal to 0. Then by definition of Laplace transform, the Laplace transform of this function is integration between 0 to infinity 1 into e raised to power minus st dt. Now then by integrating this integrand, we will get minus 1 upon s e raised to power minus st, and the limits are lower limit is 0, upper limit is infinity. When we put the limit, upper limit t tends to infinity and lower limit t tends to 0, we will get minus 1 upon s, this will be 0, and when we put the lower limit it will be minus 1. So we will get the Laplace transform of the given function is 1 by s. Here one thing is to be noted that if we take s is less than 0, then what will happen? If s is less than 0, then this expression will be infinity, because if you take t tends to infinity and s is less than 0, this term will become positive and e raised to power infinity will be infinity. Therefore, this term goes to infinity when s is less than 0. And if we take s equal to 0, then this term goes to infinity. Therefore, the Laplace transform of this function 1 is 1 by s, provided s is greater than 0. Now we consider another example, f of t as e raised to power at. F of t is e raised to power at for all t greater than equal to 0. Again, use the definition of Laplace transform. Then the Laplace transform of this function is integration between limit 0 to infinity, and f of t is here e raised to power at into e raised to power minus st, and this can be rewritten as 0 to infinity e raised to power minus s minus at dt. Then again integrating this, we can rewrite it as minus 1 upon s minus a e raised to power minus s minus a t, and the limits are 0 and infinity. Again when we put t tends to infinity, it will be 0, and when we put t tends to 0, it will be minus 1. So the Laplace transform of this function e raised to power at will be s minus a, and it will exist only if s is greater than a. In the similar manner, we can find the Laplace transform of e raised to power minus at, and it will be 1 upon s plus a, provided s is greater than minus a. Now we consider another elementary function ft is t raised to power n for all t greater than equal to 0. Now we will find the Laplace transform of this function. Now again using the definition, Laplace transform of this function is integration 0 to infinity t raised to power n e raised to power minus st dt. Now put here st as some variable u and differentiate both sides with respect to t. You will get s dt is equal to du. That implies dt is du by s. See here, if we take t equal to 0, then what will happen? U will be 0. If we take t as infinity, so u will be infinity. So when we changes the variable t to u, we can rewrite the Laplace transform of t and as integration 0 to infinity, and t is u by s, so it can be written as u by s raised to power n, and e raised to power minus st. St is u, and dt is replaced with du upon s. So since s is a constant here, because the integration is with respect to the variable u, so we can take it outside the integral sign, and it can be written as 1 upon s raised to power n plus 1, and the limit of integration is 0 to infinity u raised to power n e raised to power minus u d of u. Now here we use the gamma function. The definition of gamma function says that gamma of n is integration 0 to infinity e raised to power n minus, this is x raised to power n minus 1 e raised to power minus x dx. Now if you compare this with this expression, you will see this is nothing but gamma of n plus 1 s raised to power n plus 1. So the Laplace transform of this function t raised to power n is gamma n plus 1 upon s n plus 1, provided s is greater than 0. As you know, the properties of gamma function says that gamma n plus 1 can be written as n factorial. So we can say that Laplace transform of t raised to power n is n factorial upon s raised to power n plus 1. So using this, we can say the Laplace transform of function t, that means Laplace transform of t is 1 upon s raised to power 2. Laplace transform of t square is 2 factorial upon s raised to power 3, that means 2 upon s cube. In the similar manner, if we want to find the Laplace transform of t raised to power 5, it will be 5 factorial s6, and you know 5 factorial is nothing but 1 upon 20 upon s raised to power 6. Now we will discuss some of the important property of Laplace transformation. The first property is linear property. This property says that if Laplace transform of the function ft is f of s and Laplace transform of function gt is denoted by g of s, and if we take constant a and b, then the Laplace transform of a into ft plus b into gt will be a times Laplace of ft plus b times Laplace of gt. Now first of all we will prove this property. Now using the definition of Laplace transform and consider this as a whole function aft plus b gt, consider this as a whole function, and using the definition we can rewrite it as integration between limit 0 to infinity, and the function is aft plus b gt into e raised to power minus st dt. Now on simplifying this, it can be written as 0 to infinity aft e raised to power minus st plus bgt e raised to power minus st and dt. Now separating the integral sign between both the function, and since a and b are constant, so you can take it outside the integral sign and you can write the Laplace transform of aft plus bgt. This is equal to a times integration 0 to infinity f of t into e raised to power minus st dt plus b times integration between 0 to infinity g of t e raised to power minus st dt. Now what is this? This is the Laplace transform of function ft. So we can rewrite it as a times Laplace of ft plus b times Laplace of gt, or in other words, because we are assuming that Laplace of ft is f of s and Laplace of gt is g of s, so it can be written as a of fs plus b into gs. Now from this property we observe, firstly this is known as Laplace transform operator. This symbol L is known as Laplace transform operator. So from this property we observe that we can take the constant outside this operator. And the second thing we observe, if we want to find the Laplace transform of sum of two functions, then the Laplace transform of this sum of two function is nothing but the Laplace transform of first function plus Laplace transform of second function. Now we will use this property in the example. We take an example. We want to find the Laplace transform of function f of t sine hyperbolic at, where t is greater than equal to 0. First of all, we should know what is hyperbolic function. The definition of hyperbolic function is sine hx means e raised to power x minus e raised to power minus x upon 2. So we want to find the Laplace transform of this function ft. So by definition, Laplace of ft is integration 0 to infinity sine hyperbolic at into e raised to power minus st dt. And now use this definition, we can rewrite it as 0 to infinity e raised to power at minus e raised to power minus at upon 2 into e raised to power minus st into dt. If you consider this as a function and this is multiplied with the another function e raised to power minus st, if you see, this is nothing but the Laplace transform of the function e raised to power at minus e raised to power minus at upon 2, and it can be rewritten as Laplace of ft as Laplace of 1 by 2 e at plus minus 1 by 2 e raised to power minus at. Now you can use the linear property here, and by using the linear property we can rewrite it as half of Laplace of e raised to power at minus half Laplace of e raised to power minus at. And we have already find out the Laplace transform of this function and this function. The Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon s minus a, and the Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon s plus a, provided s is greater than a. This is for s greater than a, and this is for s greater than minus a. So therefore we can say the Laplace transform of the function sine hyperbolic at is half of 1 upon s minus a minus s plus a. Then by taking the LCM and simplifying this expression, we can rewrite it as s plus a minus s plus a upon s square minus a square. Now s to s cancel and it will be a upon s square minus a square, provided s is greater than a and s is also greater than minus a. In other word, you can say Laplace of sine hyperbolic at is a upon s square minus a square, provided s is greater than mod a. In the similar manner, we can use the linear property and find out the Laplace transform of cos hyperbolic at. Again, using the definition, it will be integration between 0 to infinity e raised to power at plus e raised to power minus at by 2 into e raised to power minus st. Since cos hyperbolic x is defined as e raised to power x plus e raised to power minus x upon 2. Now separating these terms, here you can say this is nothing but the Laplace of the function e raised to power at plus e raised to power minus at upon 2. And then again, using the linear property, you can say this is half of Laplace of e at plus half of Laplace of e minus at. Then it will be 1 by 2, and the Laplace of this function is 1 upon s plus a, and Laplace of this function is plus 1 upon s minus a. Then you will get Laplace transform of cos hyperbolic at is 1 by 2, taking the LCM, it is s square minus a square, and in the numerator s minus a plus a to a cancel, and it will be s upon s square minus a square, provided s square is greater than mod of a. Here you can say this is s is greater than modulus of a. So we can use the linear property and we can find the Laplace transform of sine hyperbolic function and cos hyperbolic function. Now we discuss another property which is known as shifting property, which is one of the most important property of Laplace transform, which we will use in coming problems. So shifting property. Shifting property says that if Laplace of ft, we denote it by fs. In other words, you can say this is nothing but 0 to infinity f of t e raised to power minus st dt. Then Laplace of e raised to power at into ft, it will be f of s minus a. That means s will be shifted to s minus a. That's why this property is known as shifting property. So to prove this, we consider the left hand side. So we will find the Laplace transform of E at ft. We will prove this. So again, using the definition of Laplace transform, it can be written as 0 to infinity and the function is whole e raised to power at ft into e raised to power minus st dt. Now it can be rewritten as 0 to infinity e minus s minus at ft dt. Now compare this with this. You know, when e raised to power minus st into ft, we denote it by f of s, and instead of this, s is here replaced with s minus a. So the Laplace transform of this function is nothing but f of s minus a. That means s is shifted to the point a and the Laplace transform of this function is f of s minus a. Now what is the use of this? We consider some example to understand the usage of this property. For example, if we want to find the Laplace transform of e raised to power at into t raised to power n. As we know, Laplace transform of Tn is n factorial s raised to power n plus 1. Then shift this s by s minus a. So Laplace transform of this function e raised to power at into Tn can be written as n factorial s minus a n plus 1. Also, you know, Laplace transform of 1 is 1 by s. And if you want to find the Laplace transform of e raised to power at, so it can be considered as e raised to power at into 1. Now, what will be the Laplace transform of this? Use the shifting property and it can be written as 1 upon s minus a. So this is the beauty of this shifting property. Now we will find some important Laplace transform. Suppose we consider a function ft equal to sine at. Now we will find the Laplace transform of this function using the shifting property. How? You know, if we consider a function e raised to power it, and Euler's formula says that it can be written as cos of t plus iota sine t. So to find the Laplace transform of this function, we will find the Laplace transform of function ft e raised to power iota 8. So Laplace transform of e raised to power iota 80, it can be rewritten as e raised to power iota 80 into 1. Now we know Laplace transform of 1 is 1 by s. So using the shifting property, we can say the Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon s minus a. Then multiply this term with numerator is s plus a and denominator is also s plus a. It will not affect because when we cancel it, it will be 1. If you multiply with the s plus ia, numerator is s plus ia and denominator is s plus ia, it will be s plus ia upon s square plus a square. In the left hand side, you see this can be written as Laplace of, using this formula, cos at plus iota sin at. And using the linear property, we can say this is nothing but the Laplace of cos at plus iota times Laplace of sin at. And right hand side gives s plus iota a, s square plus a square. So it can be written as s upon s square plus a square plus iota times a upon s square plus a square. Both sides, when we separate or compare the real part with real part and imaginary part with imaginary part, we will get the Laplace transform of cos at is s upon s square plus a square, and Laplace transform of sin at is a upon s square plus a square. So here we find the Laplace transform of the trigonometrical function sin at and cos at using the shifting property. Now we discuss another property, and this Laplace transform will exist provided s is greater than mod of a. Now we discuss another property which is known as change of scale property. This property says that if Laplace of ft is fs, then Laplace of f of at, it will be 1 upon a f of s by a. Now to prove this, we take the left hand side, Laplace of f of at, it can be written as integration between 0 to infinity f of at e raised to power minus st dt, using the basic definition of Laplace transform of any given function. Now here we put at as some u and differentiate both sides with respect to t. You will get a is a constant here, a into dt equal to du. So that implies dt is du upon a, and the limit for the u will be remains the same. U will be when t is 0, u will be 0, and when t is infinity, u will be infinity. So it can be rewritten as 0 to infinity f of at. It can be written as f of u, and e raised to power minus s. What is t? T is u by a, and dt is du by a. So it can be written as 1 by a, it is a constant, so you can take it outside the integral sign. It is 1 by a 0 to infinity f of u into e raised to power minus s by a into u d of u. Here you see, we assume that Laplace of ft is fs. So fs is 0 to infinity by definition f of t e minus st dt. So here compare this with this. Here you see the difference is here, it is s, and in this integral sign it is minus, it is s by a. So we can denote it by 1 upon, this is 1 upon a into f of s by a. So change of scale property says that the Laplace transform of the function at the point at, it can be written as 1 upon a into f of s by a. Now what is the importance of this? As we know, what is the Laplace transform of sine of t? We have already done this, and the Laplace transform of sine t is 1 upon s square plus 1. So we can find, if we want to find the Laplace transform of sine 3t. So we can use here change of scale property, and which says a is here 3, so 1 by 3 f of s, this is f of s, and we have to find f of s by a. That means s is replaced with s by a, and a is here 3, so we can rewrite it as 1 upon s by 3 whole square plus 1. So it can be written as 1 upon 3 and 1 upon s square plus 3 square, and numerator will be 3 square. So you can rewrite it as 3 upon s square plus 9. So Laplace transform of sin 3t can be find out if we know the Laplace transform sin t using the change of scale property. Now using the Laplace transformation property which we have discussed earlier, we have to find the Laplace transform of the function t into e raised to power at into sine of bt. To find the Laplace transform of this function, firstly we will find the Laplace transform of the function t into eat into e times iota by t dt. It can be rewritten as Laplace of t times e raised to power a plus iota b t. Now since we know Laplace transform of the function t is 1 upon s square, then by using the shifting property here, we can say the Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon s minus a plus iota b whole square. Then simplifying this, we can rewrite it as, open the square, it is s square plus a plus iota b whole square minus 2s into a plus iota b. Again open the square, it can be rewritten as s square plus a square minus b square plus 2a iota b and minus 2s a plus iota b. Then simplifying this, this can be written as s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as plus iota times, and 2b here and 2b here you can take common, it will be iota times 2b into here a, and this is minus s. So we get the Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as plus iota times 2b a minus s. Then by rationalizing the denominator, that means we multiply the numerator and denominator with the same terms, and the term is s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as and minus iota times 2b a minus s. Multiply the numerator with these terms and multiply the denominator with the same terms, so it will be s square a square b square minus 2as minus iota 2b a minus s. Then by simplifying this, we will get, this is the formula for a plus b a minus b, so we can rewrite it as a square minus b square. So after simplifying this expression, we can rewrite it as s square plus a square minus b square minus 2a s minus iota times 2b a minus s, and the denominator will be a square is s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as whole square. Now a square minus b square is this, whole this term is b square. So this will be iota square, 2 to the 4 into b square and a minus s square. Then we get the Laplace transform of this function is s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as minus iota times 2b a minus s, and it can be written as the denominator will be s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as whole square, and iota square is minus 1, so minus minus will plus, it will be plus 4b square a minus s square. Now if we separate the real and imaginary part, it can be written as s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as, and whole thing is divided by this denominator s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as whole square plus 4b square a minus s square. And the imaginary part will be, we take minus common from this expression and it will be plus, so it can be written as plus iota times 2b s minus a, and the denominator will be s square plus a square minus b square minus 2as whole square plus 4b square a minus s whole square. Now from the left side we see the left side can be rewritten as Laplace transform of t into e raised to power at, and by applying the Euler formula e raised to power iota x, which is this is cos x plus iota sin x. Using this formula we can rewrite e raised to power iota bt as cos bt plus iota sin bt, and then we can say this is the Laplace of t into eat cos bt plus iota times t into eat sin bt. Then apply the linear property of Laplace transform. We can rewrite it as this is Laplace transform of t into eat cos bt plus iota times Laplace of t into eat sin bt. So this is equal to this expression. Now we have to find the Laplace transform of t into e raised to power at into sin bt. So you see, when we compare the imaginary part with the imaginary part, you will get the Laplace transform of this. That means the Laplace transform of the given function, that is t into e raised to power at into sin bt, it will be 2b s minus a upon s square plus a square b square minus 2as raised to power 2 and plus 4b square a minus s whole square. So far it has been discussed that how the Laplace transform of a given function can be obtained. Now the question arises whether we can find a Laplace transform of any arbitrary functions, or there should be some condition on the given function which ensure the existence of Laplace transform for that function. Now to answer this question, we will prove here existence theorem of Laplace transform. But before proving this theorem, we will define piecewise continuous function. Suppose f be a function which is defined on the closed interval a to b. Then this function f is piecewise continuous on the closed interval ab if we can find a partition of ab, say x0, x1 to xn, such that the given function f is continuous in each of the sub-interval xi minus 1 to xi. The first condition says that the function is piecewise continuous if it satisfying That means the given closed interval has a partition such that the given function is continuous in each of the subinterval xi minus 1 xi, where I is 1 to n. And the second condition is f has jump discontinuity at the point xi for each I. Jump discontinuity means the function has left hand limit and right hand limit at the point xi, but they are not equal. Now this is the definition when the function is defined on the closed interval a to b. If the function is given at the closed interval closed at one side and open at another side and on the interval 0 to infinity, then the function is piecewise continuous on this interval. If the function is piecewise continuous on every closed interval of type this where a is greater than 0, then the function is said to be piecewise continuous on this interval. Now we consider some example of piecewise continuous function. Suppose f be a function which is defined on the closed interval 0 to 2 such that ft is taking value t square plus 1 when t lies between 0 to t to 1, and it is t minus 1 when t lies between 1 to 2. Clearly this function is defined on this closed interval 0 to 2. If we see the subinterval 0 to 1 and 1 to 2, so you see 0, 1, 2, and this is the partition of this closed interval 0 to 2, and you see in the interval 0 to 1 this function is t square plus 1, and this is a polynomial function, so this is continuous in this subinterval 0 to 1. Again, if we consider the subinterval 1 to 2, this is again a polynomial, so this function is continuous in the subinterval 1 to 2. Therefore, the first condition of the piecewise continuity of a function is satisfied. Now we check the second condition. Here the one point t is equal to 1. This is the point of jump discontinuity. So we check left hand limit of the given function at t equal to 1. It will be limit t tends to 1 minus t square plus 1. When we put t tends to 1, it will be 2. Now if we find the right hand limit at t tends to 1, so it will be limit t tends to 1 plus, and it is t minus 1. When we put t equal to 1, it will be 0. So you see at the point t equal to 1, left hand limit and right hand limit are not equal, so both the conditions are here satisfied. So this function is piecewise continuous function. Now we consider an example in which the function is not piecewise continuous. Suppose f is defined between interval 0 to 1, and the definition of function is given as f of t. This is 1 upon t minus half when t is lies between 0 to half, and it is t when it is lies between half to 1. You see this function violate the second condition of jump discontinuity at t equal to 1 by 2. You see the function, if we find the left hand limit, the left hand limit of the function will not exist at t equal to half, because the function will approaches to infinity if we apply the limit t tends to half. Therefore this function is not piecewise continuous function on the closed interval 0 to 1. Now we recall another type of function which is known as function of exponential order. Let f be a function defined on the interval 0 to infinity, then f is said to be of exponential order gamma, where gamma is greater than 0 if there exists a constant m greater than 0 and a constant t naught greater than 0 such that mod of ft is less than equal to m times e of gamma t for all t greater than equal to t naught. If a given function f satisfying this condition, then we can say that the function f is said to be of exponential order gamma. Now we get this definition with the help of an example. Suppose we have given the function which is taking value t raised to power n for all t greater than equal to 0. Then we have to check whether this function is of exponential order or not. So for this, consider a function e raised to power at, and we can rewrite it as in the series form. It can be written as 1 plus at plus a square t square by 2 factorial and so on an tn upon n factorial and so on. Now it is clearly, you can see this addition of these terms is greater than equal to thus this single term an into tn upon n factorial. So from this we can say that tn is less than equal to n factorial upon a raised to power n into e raised to power at. If we compare it with the definition of the function of exponential order, the definition says that mod of ft should be less than some m times e raised to power some gamma t. Here a is work as the gamma, so we can say, you comparing this with this, we can say the function tn is of exponential order a. Here m is this constant, so this function is of exponential order. Now we consider another function e raised to power which is defined as e raised to power t square. This function, where we will check whether this function is of exponential order or not. So if it is of exponential order, that means there will be some constant m greater than 0 such that it satisfying this condition for some constant m and for some gamma greater than 0. But when t approaches to infinity, it is not possible to find such m. You can see from this expression. So therefore we can say that the function e raised to power t square is not of exponential order. Now we will give the statement of the existence theorem and then we will prove this theorem. The statement of existence theorem says that if f be a function which is taking value ft and defined for all t belongs to 0 to infinity, the first condition is f is piecewise continuous in the interval 0 to infinity, and the second is f is of exponential order gamma, where gamma is greater than 0. Then Laplace transform of this function ft will exist, and which is fs for all Yeah, you can say for S greater than gamma. So existence theorem statement says that if f is piecewise continuous on this interval and f is of exponential order gamma, then the Laplace transform of this function will exist for s greater than gamma. Now we will prove this theorem. To prove this, since for the proof, since it is given that f is of exponential order gamma greater than 0, then by definition there exists a constant m greater than 0 and t naught greater than 0 such that mod of ft is less than equal to m times e raised to power gamma t for all t greater than equal to t naught. This is by the definition of exponential order. Now we will find the Laplace transform of this function. So you know, by definition of Laplace transform, this will be integration 0 to infinity f of t e minus st dt. Now we can break this interval 0 to infinity into two subintervals, sum of two subintervals, and it can be written as integration 0 to t naught ft e minus st dt plus t naught to infinity ft e minus st dt, and consider this as I1 and this as I2. Now the Laplace transform of this function is nothing but the sum of these two integrals. Now if we consider the integral first, I1, you see in the first integral the limit is 0 to t naught, and you know it is given that the function is piecewise continuous on the interval 0 to infinity. That means it is piecewise continuous in every finite subinterval. That means it is piecewise continuous in the interval 0 to t naught, and this function is continuous. So the product of both these functions is piecewise continuous between the interval 0 to t naught. So this function is integrable. So we can say that the integral I1 converges. Now the only things remain is what is the value of I2, whether I2 converge or diverge. So I2 is, you know, this is t naught to infinity f of t e minus st dt. Now if you take modulus sign both side and apply the integral property, you can say this is less than equal to t naught infinity. You can take modulus sign inside the integral sign, so it can be written as mod of ft into e raised to power minus st dt, because this is a positive function, positive value function, so modulus sign will not affect this function. Now using this condition, you can rewrite it as this is less than m times t naught to infinity e gamma t into e minus st dt, and it can be rewritten as less than equal to m times 0 to infinity. Here we are taking the interval t naught to infinity, but this is less than to integral 0 to infinity. So this can be written as e minus s minus gamma t dt, and when you integrate this, it will be I2 will be m times s minus gamma e minus s minus gamma t, and apply the limit 0 to infinity. When you apply the upper limit as well as lower limit, you will get the value of I2 is m upon s minus gamma, and therefore the integral I2 will converge if s is greater than gamma. So we can say that Laplace transform of the function which is I1 plus I2 and it will exist if S is greater than gamma. This is the proof of the existence theorem. Now in the existence theorem we are saying that if function is piecewise continuous and is of exponential order, then the Laplace transform of that function will always exist. But the converse of this statement is not necessarily true. Why? Let us take a function ft which is 1 upon root t, which is defined on the interval 0 to infinity. Now here you see we can find the Laplace transform of this function f of t. Laplace transform of this function by definition it will be 0 to infinity e minus st upon root t dt. Now here put st as u. Differentiate both sides with respect to t. It will be s dt equal to du, and that implies dt equal to du by s, and it gives t is equal to u by s. Then substituting all these values, and the limit will be remain same. When t is 0, u will be 0. When t is infinity, u will be infinity. So it can be written as 0 to infinity, and root e raised to power minus u dt is du upon s, and t is u upon s, so root t will be root u upon root s, and 1 upon root t is root s upon root u. So put this value, you will get this is root s upon root u. Then on simplifying, it can be written as 0 to infinity e minus u and u raised to power minus half du, and this is upon में root s. This integral is with respect to u, so we can take this quantity outside the integral sign because s is independent of u. So we can say that the Laplace transform of this function is Laplace transform of this function is 1 upon root s 0 to infinity and e raised to power minus u, and u is minus half du. And if you apply the gamma function, it can be written as gamma half upon root s, and this will be root pi by s. So you see the Laplace transform of this function exists, but this function is not piecewise continuous. You can easily see it. Now we will discuss how can we find the Laplace transform of derivative of a function and integral of a given function. Suppose f t is a given function such that its Laplace is f of s. Then Laplace of f prime t means derivative of f. It will be s fs minus f of 0. Now how? So to prove this, we consider the left hand side. Laplace of f prime t, by definition it is integration between limit 0 to infinity f of prime t e raised to power minus st dt. Now we apply by part formula, taken this as first function and this as second function. So we can rewrite as first function as it is, and the integration of second function it will be f of t, and the limit is t equal to 0 to infinity. Now minus, again differentiation of this, it will be minus s e minus st into integration of this, it will be f of t d of t. So we can rewrite it as e raised to power minus st ft when we apply the upper limit t equal to infinity, and for the lower limit it will be e minus st ft at t equal to 0, and this will be plus integration 0 to infinity. S can be taken outside this integral sign because the integration is with respect to t. So it is e minus st ft dt. Now this is the Laplace transform of the given function ft, which is denoted by fs. So from this we can see that the Laplace transform of the derivative of the given function is e minus st f of t at t equal to infinity minus, when we put t equal to 0 it will goes to 1 and it will be f of 0. Now the last term is s into fs. Now here we assume one condition कि f is a function of exponential order, say gamma, where gamma is greater than 0. Then you know, by definition of exponential order of function, we can say that there exists a constant m greater than 0 and a number t naught greater than 0, such that mod of ft is less than equal to m times e minus gamma t, because here f is a function of exponential order of gamma, so it will be modulus of ft is less than m times e raised to power minus gamma t for all t greater than equal to t naught. Now we multiply both sides with the function e raised to power minus st, and it will be m times e raised to power, this is gamma t into e raised to power minus st, so it can be written as m times e raised to power minus s e raised to power, this is minus t s minus gamma. Now if this is true for all t greater than equal to t naught, if t approaches to infinity, what will happen? If t approaches to infinity, then what will happen? Limit t tends to infinity e minus st f of t, this will be goes to 0. This will goes to 0 because when we apply t tends to infinity, this term will goes to 0. Therefore, this will goes to 0 when t approaches to infinity. Therefore, using this, we can say that this term goes to 0. So, the Laplace transform of the derivative of a function is s times f of s minus f0, provided that the condition which we have assumed here, the condition is f is of exponential order. That means we can say that if f is a function having Laplace transform exists and it is of exponential order, then we can say that Laplace transform of the derivative of that function is s times Laplace transform of that function minus value of the given function at the point t equal to 0. In the similar manner, we can prove that Laplace transform of second derivative of a function is s square f of s minus s times f0 minus f prime 0, and here we take f and f prime is of exponential order, the function of exponential order. In the similar manner, we can say that the Laplace transform of the triple derivative is s cube fs minus s square f0 minus s f prime 0 and minus f double prime 0, and here we take f prime and f double prime is a function of exponential order. In the similar manner, we can say that Laplace transform of nth derivative of a given function is s raised to power n f of s minus s raised to power n minus 1 f of 0 minus s raised to power n minus 2 f prime 0, and so on. In this way it will be f n minus 1th derivative at the point 0. So using this formula we can find the Laplace transform of the any order derivative of a given function. Now we consider an example on the basis of this. Here it is given ft is e raised to power minus 2t sine 4t, and we have to find the Laplace transform of the second derivative of this function. Now using the formula, Laplace transform of second derivative is nothing but s square f of s minus s into f of 0 minus f prime 0. Now first of all we will find the Laplace transform of this given function. As you know, Laplace transform of the function sine 4t is 4 upon s square plus 4 square, which is 16. Then the Laplace transform of e raised to power minus 2t sine 4t, it can be applying the shifting property. We can write the Laplace transform of this will be s upon s will be shifted to minus 2, so it will be s plus 2 whole square plus 16. Now we will find first of all the derivative of this function f prime t. That means we will differentiate this function with respect to t. So taking any function as first and other function as second, we take e raised to power minus 2t as first function and sine 4t as second function. So we can rewrite it as e raised to power minus 2t same, and the derivative of this function will be 4 times cos 4t. Now plus sine 4t as it is, and the derivative of this will be minus 2 times e raised to power minus 2t. So it can be written as 4 times e raised to power minus 2t cos 4t minus 2 times e raised to power minus 2t sine 4t. Now we have to find the value of the derivative function at point t equal to 0. So f prime t at t equal to 0. When you put t equal to 0, this will goes to 0 and this will be 1 and this will also 1, so the value will be 4. Now we will find the value of f0. What is the value of f0? Put t equal to 0 here, you will get e raised to power 0 is 1 and sine 4 0 is 0, so this will be 0. So using all these values, this is your fs and this is your value of ft at t equal to 0, and this is the value of derivative at t equal to 0. Using all these values, we can say that this is s square 4 upon s plus 2 whole square plus 16 into this is minus s into 0 and this is minus 4. So we can rewrite it as Laplace transform of the second derivative is 4 into s square upon s plus 2 whole square plus 16 minus 4. This is the Laplace transform of second derivative. If you want to simplify this, you can simplify this. Now we will find the Laplace transform of integral. Suppose we have given Laplace of function ft as f of s, and we have to find the Laplace transform of the integral 0 to t f of u d of u. So to find the Laplace transform of this integral, first we define the function gt as 0 to t f of u d. When you differentiate this equation both sides, we can rewrite it as g prime t f of t. Now take Laplace transform both sides of this equation. It can be written as Laplace of g prime t equal to Laplace of f of t. And as you know, Laplace transform of ft is given as f of s. So from this we can say that f of s is Laplace transform of g prime t. Now applying the derivative formula for Laplace transform, it can be written as s times g of s minus g of 0. G of s is Laplace transform of the given function gt, and we have to find the value of this function at t equal to 0. When we take t equal to 0, the upper limit will also 0, so this will give g0 as 0. So from this expression we can say that sgs is f of s. That means g of s is f of s upon s, and hence we can say that the Laplace transform of the integral 0 to t f of u du, which is f of s upon s, because the Laplace transform of this integral is nothing but the Laplace transform of the function g, and which is given by f of s upon s. Now we will find the Laplace transform of multiplication of the given function with t raised to power n. That means if it is given that Laplace of ft is f of s, then what will be the Laplace of t raised to power n into ft? And we will prove here the Laplace of t raised to power n into ft will be minus 1 raised to power n dn dsn f of s, where fs is the Laplace transform of the function ft, and dn upon dsn denotes the nth derivative of fs with respect to s. Now to prove this, we will use the principle of mathematical induction. So for the principle of mathematical induction, firstly we have to show that Laplace of t ft is minus d upon ds into fs. Now to prove this, as we know fs is the Laplace transform of ft, so by definition it will be 0 to infinity e raised to power minus st into ft dt. Now find the derivative of fs with respect to s. Then we can rewrite it as d by ds f of s, and the right hand side will be d by ds 0 to infinity e minus st f of t. When it enter into the integral sign, it will convert it to partial derivative. So we can write it as 0 to infinity partial derivative with respect to s of the function e minus st ft dt. Here e minus st is the only function which is depending upon s, so ft act as a constant. So when we differentiate it with respect to s, we can say that the derivative of fs with respect to s is 0 to infinity. We differentiate it with respect to s, so it will be minus t e raised to power minus st ft dt, because f is a function which is depending upon t and the differentiation is partial derivative with respect to s, so it will act as a constant. Now from this it can be written as 0 to infinity t ft into e raised to power minus st dt, and by definition it is nothing but the Laplace of t of ft. So from this equation we can say that Laplace of t into ft is equal to minus times first derivative of Laplace of ft. Now this is true for n equal to 1. Now we assume this statement is true for n equal to m. So for this we assume here Laplace transform of tmft is minus 1 raised to power m mth derivative with respect to s of function fs. Now we have to prove that Laplace of tm plus 1 ft is minus 1 raised to power m plus 1th derivative with respect to variable s of the given function s. Now to prove this, since we have assumed this term is equal to this term, now from this we can see that minus 1m mth derivative of the function fs with respect to the variable s is nothing but Laplace of t of m ft, and by definition of Laplace transform it will be 0 to infinity t raised to power m f of t e raised to power minus st dt. Now differentiate this equation both sides with respect to s. So when you differentiate it, it will be minus 1 upon s d m plus 1 upon ds m plus 1 f of s, and here it will be d by ds 0 to infinity t raised to power m f of t e raised to power minus st dt. Again, you know, when we enter this differentiation into the integral sign, it will convert it to partial derivative. So it can be rewritten as minus 1 raised to power m d raised to power m plus 1 ds m plus 1 fs, which is equal to 0 to infinity t raised to power m ft and partial derivative of e raised to power minus st with respect to s, because tm into ft, this is a function which is depending upon t, so we can take it outside this partial derivative because partial derivative is with respect to s. Now when we differentiate this function with respect to s, so this equation can be written as, so we can rewrite it as 0 to infinity t raised to power m into minus t f of t e raised to power minus st dt when we differentiate it with respect to s. Now from this you can say 0 to infinity, this is minus t raised to power m plus 1 ft e minus st dt, and by definition of Laplace transform this is minus Laplace transform of t m plus 1 f of t, and take this minus side on the left hand side, we can rewrite as Laplace transform of t m plus 1 ft, which is minus 1 raised to power m plus 1th derivative of fs with respect to s. So by the using of principle of mathematical induction, we have proved that the Laplace transform of the function t raised to power n ft is equal to minus 1 raised to power n into nth derivative of the function fs with respect to the variable s. Now using this result, we can solve several examples. Now we consider one of them example is, we consider the function gt, which is t into sine hyperbolic 8, and we have to find the Laplace transform of this function. Here we will use the previous result, which says that Laplace transform of t into ft is minus time first derivative of f of s, where f of s is the Laplace of this ft. If you compare this with this, you see here ft is sine hyperbolic at, and f of s will be Laplace of ft, and we know Laplace of sine hyperbolic at is a upon s square minus a square. Then to find the Laplace transform of gt, we have to find the derivative of this function fs. So the derivative of fs with respect to s will be first function, this is taken as first function and this is taken as second function, s square minus a square as it is, and derivative of a with respect to s is 0 minus second function as it is, and derivative of first function is 2s divided by s square minus a whole square. So it will be minus 2as upon s square minus a square raised to power 2. So when we put this value in this expression, it will be 2as s square minus a square whole square. So using the previous result, we can find the Laplace transform of this function t into sine hyperbolic at, which is 2 times a into s upon s square minus a square raised to power 2. Now we will give a result for the Laplace transform of the division of a function with t. That means if we have given the Laplace transform of ft as fs, then we have to prove that Laplace transform of ft upon t, it will be integration s to infinity f of s into d of s. You know f of s is Laplace of ft. Now since f of s is Laplace of ft, therefore by definition we can rewrite it as 0 to infinity f of t e minus st d of t. Then here fs is 0 to infinity ft e raised to power minus st dt. Then integrate both sides of this equation with the limit s to infinity. Integration s to infinity fs ds, and it will be integration s to infinity 0 to infinity f of t e minus st dt, and this is ds. So here the first integral sign is with respect to s and the second integral sign is with respect to t. Now changing the order of integration, what we will get? Changing the order of integration, we get integral s to infinity f of s ds. Now first integral will changes with respect to t and the second integral will changes with respect to s. So we can rewrite it as integration 0 to infinity integration s to infinity f of t e minus st dt. The first integration is with respect to s and the outer integration is with respect to t. Now we can take this function outside this integral sign, because this is integration with respect to s and the function is depending on the variable t. So we can say this is 0 to infinity f of t integration s to infinity e minus st d of s and d of t. Now we integrate this inner integral and it will be 0 to infinity ft, and we integrate it with respect to s. So it will be minus 1 upon t e minus st, and the limit is s to infinity. Therefore, after putting the limit, we get the value of integral s to infinity fs ds is integration 0 to infinity f of t. Now take minus sign outside this integral, and it will be f t upon t, and when we put this limit t tends to infinity, it will goes to 0, and when we put lower limit s, it will be s, but for lower limit there will be a negative sign, and negative will become positive. So we can rewrite it as ft upon t into e raised to power minus st into dt. And by definition of Laplace transform, if you consider this as a whole function, this is the Laplace transform of this function. So we can say that this is Laplace of ft upon t, and hence the result is obtained कि Laplace transform of ft upon t is equal to integration s to infinity fs ds. Now using this result, we will find the Laplace transform of the function, which is defined as take gt cos 2t minus cos 3t by t, and we have to find the Laplace transform of this function. Here we will use the previous result, in which we have proved Laplace transform of ft upon t is integration s to infinity fs ds. First of all, here we define ft as cos 2t minus cos 3t. Then what will be the Laplace of this function? It will be Laplace transform of cos 2t minus cos 3t. Here we use the linear property, and it can be written as Laplace of cos 2t minus Laplace of cos 3t. Then, as we know, Laplace transform of cos 2t is s upon s square plus 2 square, which is 4, and the Laplace transform of cos 3t is s upon s square plus 3 square is 9. Now to find the Laplace transform of gt, it is Laplace transform of cos 2t minus cos 3t upon t, and using this assumption, we can say that this is nothing but the Laplace transform of ft upon t, and using this equation, we can say this is nothing but s to infinity fs into ds. Then the Laplace transform of gt can be written as Laplace transform of gt, it will be integration s to infinity, and the integrand is s upon s square plus 4 minus integration s to infinity s upon s square plus 9, and the integration is with respect to s. Now we can rewrite it as, we solve this integral. First we multiply and divide by 2. It can be written as 1 by 2 integral s to infinity 2s upon s square plus 4 ds, and again multiply divide by 2, it will be 1 upon 2 s to infinity 2s s square plus 9 ds. Then this is equal to 1 by 2, and we can rewrite it as, this is log of s square plus 4, integration is, limit is s to infinity, and again this is minus 1 by 2 log of s square plus 9, and the limit of integration is s to infinity. Because we know the derivative of s square plus 4 is 2s, and here the derivative of s square plus 9 is 2s, Therefore, by using the property of integral, we can say that this is the logarithm of the denominator and this is also the logarithm of the denominator. Now here we take s square common and we combine this expression. We can rewrite it as log of s square plus 4 minus log of s square plus 9 and the limit is s to infinity. Then it can be rewritten as Laplace transform of gt is nothing but 1 by 2. Use the property of log a minus log b. It can be written as log a divided by b. So we can rewrite it as log of s square plus 4 upon s square plus 9 and the limit is s to infinity. Now 1 upon 2 we take s square common. It can be written as 1 plus 4 upon s square and s square common in the denominator 1 plus 9 upon s square and the limit are s to infinity. S square to s square will cancel and when we will put the limit s as infinity, then the numerator will be 1 and when we put s as infinity in the denominator it will also be 1. So we can rewrite this expression as 1 by 2 log of 1 minus log of 1 plus 4 upon s square and 1 plus 9 upon s square after putting the upper and lower limit. As you know, log 1 is 0, so this can be written as 1 by 2 minus log of 1 plus 4 by s square upon 1 plus 9 by s square. Then by simplifying this, we can again rewrite it as 1 by 2 minus log of s square plus 4 upon s square plus 9. Here the negative sign is given, so we can interchange the numerator and denominator in the logarithm function. It can be written as 1 by 2 log of s square plus 9 upon s square plus 4. So this is the Laplace transform of the given function cos 2t minus cos 3t upon t. Now I would like to summarize this lecture. This lecture was started with the definition of Laplace transformation, and then by using this definition we derive the Laplace transformation of several elementary functions, and then after we discussed the important properties of Laplace transformation like linear property, shifting property and change of scale property. Moreover, we talk on the existence theorems and derive the Laplace transformation of derivative as well as integral of a function. Also we present here several important examples for the better understanding of this concept. Now thank you everyone for your patience and I hope this lecture will be benefited for you. Thank you once again.